Hi, first time buyers. Today we're going to be talking about costs that you have to consider when you're buying your first property. So, what are they? The very first one is stamp duty. Now, stamp duty is the tax that you have to pay for buying that property. Now, its actually official name is Stamp Duty Land Tax, or SDLT. Now, as of this recording, 425,000 is exempt. So for example, if you're buying a property for 500,000, 425 of it would be tax free and 75 of it would be taxable. I will put in a link where you can actually use the calculator to figure out whether you have to pay stamp duty or not, but most good mortgage advisors would tell you what the stamp duty is going to be even before it comes up to seeing a conveyancer who is the one who pays it over. Now, who am I? My name is Manda and I am the mortgage coach. I call myself that because I combine mortgage advice with financial coaching combined. Now, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe and share with others. So outside of stamp duty, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the conveyancer fees. Now, conveyancer fees can vary. One of the main reasons they vary is if you own the freehold or if it's going to be a leasehold. Now, most freeholds are when you own the whole house. So you own the house and you own the land on the house, and that's a freehold. A leasehold is when maybe you share the land with another flat and then you both lease that land for a certain amount of time. So always check if it's 99 years or 100 years, that kind of information, because it does restrict lending. Conveyancers do a lot of things, but you need to be aware that sometimes for first time buyers you will get free legal. The one thing I would say about free legal is you get what you pay for. So the fact that you haven't paid for it means that you are at the bottom of the run when the solicitor is actually working through which client to help first. The second thing I've seen is it does take a lot longer. A lot of it is automated and can get quite confusing. So you might go online and get a load of forms to fill out that you have to do, when if you'd paid the solicitor it's more sort of hand holding. So it depends what kind of service you want. Again, I would always say you get what you pay for. The next cost I would like for you to consider and be aware of is surveys. Now, surveys are really split into three. You've got the first level, which is just the valuation. I mean, back at COVID, they weren't even visiting the property. They were either driving by it or they were literally going on a database, a bit like Rightmove or Zoopla, and checking the house price of the area, doing a street map to see what that property looked like, and if it looked sort of average to everybody else, or it looked a lot worse or it looked a lot better, and given a figure from that. With a valuation, you rarely get the report. It is literally just for the lender to sort of say, yes, it's right that you're lending money on this property because it is worth it, basically. The second level is, I like to call it the traffic lights. So it's the home buyers report. And the reason I call it the traffic light report is because if there are major defects, it will be red. It will be highlighted in red. If there are minor, it will be highlighted in amber. And if it is good to go, it's green. Now, it doesn't go in as much depth as the next report I'm going to talk about, but it's enough for you to get a rough idea. So depending on your budget, sometimes, and it is the most popular, is the home buyers. Now, I know quite a few surveyors, and I'm planning to get one on the channel anyway, and they most of the time say that a full structure is the way to go. Even though it is the most expensive of the three, if you compare to most properties, you're paying, you know, 100, 200,000 pounds. It's probably the biggest purchase of your life. So isn't it worth spending, say, 1% of what you're buying it for just to check that it is 100% okay. So a full structural is the way to go there. So you need to make sure that you're budgeting for that. So of course, as I said, stamp duty, you might get exempt depending on the value of the property. Then surveyors, I'd always put some money aside. If your mortgage advisor can get you an amazing, a deal where you don't have to pay and you're happy to go with legal, great, but at least have budgeted the money for it. Then, as I said, the survey, sometimes, again, that can be thrown in for free, but the likelihood is it's just a basic valuation. If you want to know more about the report, you'll have to pay more. Again, I think the theme of this video is you pay for what you get. The next thing is moving costs. So when you're looking at, moving costs or buying furniture or all of that kind of thing, you need to sort of make sure that you put aside some money for that. And I'd say the two most important things are tea bags and toilet roll, but that's just me. The next thing to consider is you're looking at how much you can borrow and how much you can afford. And these are two different things. Now, how much you can borrow, this information you normally get from your mortgage advisor. And what they should do is they should look at all your income, be it self-employed, be it normal income, be it bonuses, and look at different lenders and different criteria. For example, some lenders will take 100% of the bonus, even if you've only had it once. Some lenders won't take any of the bonus unless you've had it for 2 years. Some people will take 50% of the bonus. Some people will take 100% of the overtime. Some people will take some of the commission. You really need to know lenders and criteria, but that also needs to be considered. But what a mortgage advisor would do is they'd take all of that into consideration, and then they would compare it. Normally, they'd get a copy of your credit report, which you would supply to them, and they would look at your credit commitments. Now, once they take off your credit commitments off your income, and obviously depending whether it's a loan, whether it's unsecured loan, whether it's a credit card, the different criteria again, whether it's, for example, a loan, then they want to know what is that monthly payment. If it's a credit card, they want to know what is the credit card balance. Some lenders also like to look at the credit card limit, because as far as they're concerned, the day of completion, you could max out that card on furniture or whatever you need. So that's why they look at that. So once they look at that, they do the calculations, and then they can tell you how much you can borrow. And I can guarantee every single lender will be saying that it can lend you a different amount. And then again, depending on how much deposit you put in, depends on how much of a risk you are, which depends on how many multiples they will give you. So sometimes they'll lend you more if you're putting down a 20% deposit than they would if you're only putting down a 10% deposit. Obviously, it's all down to risk factor. So that's how much you can borrow. Now, how much you can afford is when you actually look at your monthly outgoings, how much per month have you got left to pay for that mortgage. So I think it's really, really good if you get into a good habit, right, as I say, as I did myself out of uni, of putting money aside from the deposit, because obviously once you've bought the property, you're not saving a deposit anymore, and you can use that a proportion amount that you used to put towards a deposit for now paying off the mortgage. So that's also worth looking into. You really do need to track your finances, look at your budget, find out how much you spend every month, and that should really be looking at what you can afford. So once you find out what you can borrow, then you find out how much your monthly mortgage payments are, and then you have to look at your actual budget and say, is this something I can afford month in, month out? There are other running costs to be aware of, so it's not just the mortgage. There are things like utilities, gas, electric, which keep on going up. Hopefully they'll settle down at some point. There's water as well. Oh, you want a water meter? How does all of that work? What is the costs in that? Then there's food, and then there's, if you do need furniture and things like that, if you do need replacing things, if you do need to put money aside, if you want to get a boiler, the tip I'd get is get service cover. So boilers can be really, really expensive. So you get a service cover, and they will give you a service every single year to check it's doing all right, and then if something goes wrong, they will come in and fix it. I think that's a really, really worthwhile thing to do. The next thing to consider, and some of this one is mandatory with the mortgage, which is buildings and contents insurance. Now, buildings insurance is insuring the building, contents is securing the contents. Now, if you've got a flat, there may be block insurance, because at the end of the day, if you're on the top floor and there's 2 flats below you and they're not insured, it doesn't really help you if you're insured if something goes wrong with them. So it is normally, if these are for leasehold properties, it's normally the freeholder of those leaseholders who will charge. So when you have a leasehold, the costs are involved. One is ground rent, because your property is on that ground, and the second is service charge. Now, the service charge can be a combination of things. So one will be the insurance, which is what we were talking about, the building insurance. So what will happen is the freeholder, because he is responsible for the land and all the flats, even though you own the flat, you own the leasehold of the flat, he owns the freehold of the flat. And what will happen is he or she will go and get insurance for the whole block. That's every single flat within the building. And then should divide it up amongst each of the flats. And then that's what he'll charge you for as part of your service charge. Another part of the service charge might be lift maintenance. Another part might be ground maintenance, or stairs maintenance, keeping the grounds clean, cutting the grass, that kind of thing. It may all be incorporated in the service charge. So that is something that you need to be aware of. At the end of the day, this is what I would ask an estate agent up front, because you might find the most beautiful flat and you just want to move in, but think to yourself, how much does it cost to keep it this beautiful? If outside is absolutely beautiful, then it may be quite a costly affair. So you need to make sure that you can afford that. The next thing to consider is, as I said, I mentioned the bills, but also you need to consider your council tax, any other charges. So anything that can be involved, really. So I think I've mentioned every single one. If you've got any questions, please, by all means, put a comment in. If you think this is a useful video and it could be, please share it. As I said, please subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll give you another video tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.